Y ya está, creo. Hola. espero que espero que todos estés ahí me escuchando. Creo que ya estamos en directo, sí. Hola a todos, ¿cómo estás? Bueno, encantado de estar aquí una vez más. Yo me llamo Tiago. Aquí es nuestra plataforma de Cambly. Estamos aquí otra vez haciendo nuestras Cambly Lives o Cambly Talks. Bueno, no sé exactamente cómo decirlo, pero como ya sabéis, hacemos esto todas las semanas y buscamos siempre hablar de temas distintos y hay cosas interesantes. Y antes de empezar, os quiero decir una cosa muy interesante. Aquí abajo en la descripción hay un enlace donde pone hasta un 35% de descuento. O sea que un descuento súper bueno. O entonces, si quieres empezar a hacer una clase gratis, tu primera clase, querer hacer un test en la plataforma, aquí abajo también en este enlace hay una clase gratuita, ¿vale? Y si queréis coger este código, poner ahí en Cambly y coger una clase, tomar una clase gratis con Gui, que es nuestro tutor de hoy, bueno, ahí está y podéis empezar y hacer una clase gratuita, ¿vale? Y si queréis empezar un curso, hasta un 35% de descuento, o sea que muy bueno, ¿vale? Entonces, hoy vamos a hablar de curiosidades sobre Estados Unidos, cosas que, bueno, a veces distintas, algunas parecidas con aquí en España, a veces no, en países de Latinoamérica tal vez diferentes. Y os quiero que pedir que si tenéis cualquier duda, cualquier comentario, cualquier cosa que queréis saber, vamos a hablar un poco de esto, ¿vale? Y a poner aquí al lado en los comentarios y vamos a contestarlos, bueno, a todos, o parte de ellos. Entonces, será todo en inglés, como ya sabéis, pero si queréis poner los comentarios en español o en inglés, nos da igual, ¿vale? Y es esto, vamos a empezar y, bueno, espero que os guste. So, hi Guy, how are you doing?
Hi, Tiago. I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good, very good, very good to have you here one more time. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. It's always an honor to participate and have a chance to talk with our viewers and today hopefully share some curiosities. So this should be fun.
Definitely will, definitely will. Well, I think, well, as you know, sometimes I think most of the people already know you, already know both of us. But for the ones who are new here, that like, oh, I just arrived. Who are those guys? So, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell a little bit about you, your background.
Sure. Yeah. So hello, everyone at home watching us. Thank you for joining. My name is Gui Moraes. I am Brazilian American tutor here on Cambly. I have a background in fine arts. I went to school for painting and drawing and art history. And I spend half of my time tattooing. I'm a professional tattoo artist. And the other half, I am a teacher of English on Cambly. And I am really looking forward to sharing some curiosities with you guys today. And hopefully, you will take the code and you would try a lesson and give me a call so we can have some conversations. It should be awesome.
That will be interesting. That will be interesting. As you were saying, you went to fine arts and you did all in Miami, right?
Yeah, that's right. I went to New World School of the Arts, which is a very renowned art school, but it's also pretty small in size. It's only arts. So it's the fine art, there's theater, music, and dance. So it's not like a gigantic university that we usually see on American movies. You know, it's something much smaller. But it was great.
That's nice. That's nice. So I would like to start that since today we're going to talk a little bit about curiosities in general in the United States. You will bring your point of view as like someone who lived in Miami for most of your life, and I will bring my point of view when I was living in California. So I don't know some things that I noticed that were different, but I don't know. I would like to maybe start with something that it's a important date maybe I don't know if it's a holiday or something, but it's something that it's happening and I think it's this weekend if I'm not wrong, and it's the Halloween, right? This is one of the curiosities about United States. It starts with the Halloween. I mean, how is this like the trick or treats? How is this holiday? I'm not sure if it's a holiday. It's important in the culture, let's say like that.
Right. Yeah, Halloween is it's an amazing time of the year. Everyone looks forward to it because it's a big event for the kids every year, and also the adults. So Halloween is something that is fun for everybody. And just before I go any deeper, it's my brother's birthday every Halloween. So Gabe, happy birthday! And it's also my niece's birthday, Amara. So Amara, happy birthday! And
So,
it's amazing. I love Halloween, right? And in some other cultures, we have some other festivities during the year. Like in Brazil, we have Carnival, where we get to dress up and really like pick different costumes and have a good time. Like enacting something else. In America, Halloween is really the time of the year where you get to dress up as spooky things like zombies and vampires or a witch. And it's not only like horror themes, it's usual. That's like the classic Halloween costume, but people really, they have a laugh and have fun dressing up as anything else. And it, very much like you see on movies, this is something fun that I've experienced. I've had the chance to travel to many different countries, and it's always like surprising when you arrive somewhere and you're like, wow, this is actually just like the movies. Because we get used to watching something on movies and we think it's a little, like a fantasy, or it's not exactly like that. And then you arrive somewhere and you're like, it's actually just like this. And so the kids love it. So I don't think it's really like a holiday where you have, the day off work and things like that. But you very much look forward to it all day. And right as soon as kids come home from school, they will put on their costumes. Like maybe sometimes you can even go to school wearing your costumes, And the parents, depending on your age, the parents might go out with the kids and going knocking the door and saying trick or treat, which is basically a way of saying you either give us candy or we will prank your house somehow, And all the families, they have candy ready for the kids, and people really like put props and they put all kinds of like different things in their yard, and they put like signs on their door, and they put, carving pumpkins is a big part of it. So this is not something just from the movies. Everyone goes out to pumpkin patches and pumpkin farms, and you buy the biggest pumpkin you can. And this is like a whole activity that you do with your family the week before. You carve out the pumpkin and you take out all the guts, and then you make interesting designs, and you put like a candle inside or a light bulb or something, and it lights up. So there's like all this preparation for it, and it's great. And kids get a lot of candy. I remember when I was a kid, we would bring like big garbage bags or like pillowcases, and we would fill them up with candy. Wow. And once they were full, we would bring them home, empty them out, and go get more candy. And we would have candy for like weeks, It's not bad for your teeth, I'm sure. The dentist probably love it.
Probably. Yes, definitely.
It's great. And then once you're getting older, you go out by yourself with your friends, and, you're a teenager, so you ride your bike around, and you start getting a little too old to get candy at some point.
Yeah.
But then, like grown-ups have a lot of fun because there's like a lot of fun Halloween parties, like costume parties, So, and also like where I lived for a long time in Palm Beach, they would have the Moon Fast, is what they call it. So the main road that goes down West Palm Beach, they would close the road, and the whole road would be like a parade. So everyone is wearing costumes, and all the bars are open, and there's a lot of like live music outside, and you get to just have a great time all night, So Halloween is one of my favorite times of the year, especially in America, because people are really serious about it,
Yeah, definitely. It's something that for me, it's one of the most interesting time. I like to say holiday because I think it's I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, it is.
And I always remember because when I was living in California, I part of that I was in California when all the Halloween was started to happening. So, and I didn't know. I mean, I knew a little bit because of the movies and stuff, and I started to hear some people talking a little bit here and there, and everything started to be like all purple, orange, and like with I don't know, a lot of different
Right.
colors, and then we were living in an area that it's in around the University of Berkeley, so it's all students there. It's not that kind of resident area. It's more like for students to live and
Right.
like parties and houses for students and sororities and all those stuff. And we went out and we bought like costumes and we started to run around. And the thing there is like all of the houses around they started to like since we are not kids anymore, and we weren't at the time and we are not now. And they put it in some parties. They put it in front. You knocked on the door and you asked for trick or treats, but they gave you like a shot of tequila or I don't know what the kind of shots that they did. But you started to
Right.
knocking on the doors and asking for trick or treats, and they were giving you shots of some kind of alcoholic drink. So it was pretty fun. It was my first experience with Halloween, like in the United States, so I love it. So it was super fun. And I mean,
It
yeah,
is.
it's definitely that. It's definitely something that it's exactly like you see in the movies. It's amazing. And I imagine in a
Yeah.
place where you live with your family, there could be around like hundreds of kids on the streets asking. It should be very fun to be a kid in the United States at this time.
Yeah, it's great. I remember one Halloween in specific. So afternoon, like when the sun starts setting, this is the prime time that kids go out because it's not too late, but they're
Mm-hmm.
already home from school. But it's still early, so like the grown-ups, it's not like it's too early to go to a party or something. So
Mm-hmm.
usually you're home and you're handing out candy to kids. And I remember one year I just opened the garage door and I left it really dark with like some purple lights, like you said, some UV lights. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
spooky. And I put on like this crazy costume that I had with like a gas mask, and I was just looking crazy. And I just turned on my guitar amp really loud, and I was just playing very scary like guitar songs. And I put a very big bowl of candy like really close in the opening of the garage to see if the kids would come take the candy. And it was just very fun, because they would like be really spooked out, and then they would slowly start approaching and like get the
Uh-huh.
candy, and the parents were like really stoked, because it was something very different, and it was cool. So I did that for like an hour or two, and then after all the kids, like kind of going back home, and we were out of candy,
Mm-hmm.
then that like I put on my ninja costume and I went out to Moonfest, and I went as a ninja, which is always one of my favorite costumes because it's very simple to do, and it's great, yeah. And as
Yeah.
a kid, like pranking houses too, like it's nothing like to damage people's properties or anything. There's
Mm-hmm.
always like the vandals, but like the common sense is like you might like prank throwing toilet paper or like throwing confetti over someone's car just so they have to wash it the next day. They're like simple pranks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Mm.
it's great. It's great, and it's like yeah, it's not just the event, the night. It's kind of like Easter or Christmas anywhere else. Like the whole month leading up to it, like
Yeah.
stores
Yeah.
start, decorating, and there's always sales on candy.
Yeah.
If you love candy, it's the best candy. you know. And like the candy manufacturers, they make like special edition candy for Halloween. So you have like the Halloween like M&Ms. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, it's great.
That's nice. That's nice. And well, let's say that I'm curious about. I have another curiosity that I noticed when I was living in California, but I want to know one that you think that it's like a fun fact or a curiosity, especially what do you notice? Because I know that it's some things that as you're now in Brazil, that might be different in Brazil than the United States, but some are similar here in Spain. But I mean, what do you feel? What do you felt? These like a kind of a curiosity or something interesting from the United States as yourself.
So many things, many different like subtle things, right? There are some things that are just, I don't know if they're curiosities, but they're just different.
Mm-hmm.
And example, here we use kilometers. There they use miles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole measuring system is different from inches and yards.
Mm-hmm.
And for volume, they use gallons and pints and cups. And for weight, they use ounces and pounds instead of kilograms, you know? So like for temperature, instead of Celsius, which is what we use here, in a lot of other countries, they use Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets a lot of people like confused, especially if you're not aware of it, if you don't remember like the conversions and you're just there for the weekend, you go visit Disney and they're like, yeah, do you want a pint or a cup or an ounce? And you're like, no idea what that is. So they're like that. And then there are other things that are more cultural. And one thing that is very different in Florida, for example, that I felt when I was young from here is the architecture of things and the way that things are like structured. The way that everything seems like it's perfect, you know, like the roads are like everything seems like it's been designed in The Sims in like a video game, you know, like everything is a grid and there's like, it almost feels like a game like Minecraft or something where the geography here is very different. So you have a mountain and a bridge and an ocean and a lake and everything is kind of organic, you know, it's like just the architecture itself and the infrastructure of the city is very different.
Yeah.
And there are like all these other things. Like I remember the first time we went to the gas station, and I think we talked a little bit before class. I think in Spain it might be similar to America.
Yeah.
But in Brazil and many other countries, you show up at a gas station and they have employees who are responsible for pumping your gas. They come to your car and they ask you, hey, how much gas would you like? And it could be gas, it could be diesel, you know, it could be like whatever. And you tell them, well, I want $20 in gasoline. And you give them the keys and they open up, you know, your gas and they put gas in your car. And you just wait in your car, right?
Yeah.
And then when they're done, you pay and you leave. And when we showed up in America, it was like self-service. You have to pump your own gas. And we were like, I have never pumped gas in my life. You know, I was like a little kid, and my dad is like, "What's going on?" And we're looking around, trying to see what people are doing. And so that's a very big difference. And like the tolls, when you're on the highway, sometimes there is no toll booth for you to give money and get change. Like you throw the change in a basket, and the gate opens by itself. And the first time we showed up at the toll booth, we're like, "What do we do?" Like, we didn't even know how it worked, you know. There was like a lot of little things, and in general, or even like the eating habits. Here in Brazil, very usual for people to have a light breakfast. It's something to start your day, so you don't want anything too heavy, you know. So people eat fruit, a toast with cream cheese. Fruit juice, right? These are things that are very popular. Maybe like a slice of bread, nothing too crazy. And then our lunch here is like the heaviest meal of the day, right? Because you're like at work and your body's already working, the engine is on. So then you have like your meal of the day. And in America, the breakfast is one of like the main meals of the day, you know? So like people have a much heavier breakfast with bacon and waffles and syrup and like 4 or 5 eggs. So that was very different as well. And the whole culture of fast food was very different. Now it's way more popular all over the world. So we're kind of used to having many different fast food branches and these kind of American kind of restaurants like Outback. And, you know, this is like very common now everywhere. But, you know, like 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. Like maybe we had McDonald's in Brazil and that was about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to United States and they had Burger King and Checkers and Miami Subs, Wendy's, KFC, Taco Bell.
Yeah,
It's like a billion different fast food choices, and
that's true.
even the restaurants themselves are very different. So there's like tons of nuances. Things about school, like the school bus that you see on movies, it's very real.
That's true. That's one
you
of the
get on
things that
this
is true
big
as well.
yellow school bus. Yeah, and the school bus stops in different neighborhoods and they pick up kids like from one specific area and then they drive you to school. And every time the school bus stops to let kids in or out, it opens up a little stop sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when that school bus opens that stop sign, that's like one of the biggest things in driving and traffic law that you have to obey. That's like one of the biggest like things that you could do wrong is not stop when a school bus has the stop sign open,
Wow.
Like you could get into very big trouble for that because this is when kids are leaving and getting in and out of the bus and they're crossing the street, right? So kids' lives are at risk.
Yeah.
So if a school bus stops and it opens the stop sign to let kids in and out, and then you just drive past and a cop sees you, you're in trouble,
Wow. Wow. That's interesting.
So yeah,
That's really good. That's really
different
good.
nuances. Yeah, they have some different laws about things regarding school, and I think it's very clever. I think any type of crime or anything that you do, like breaking the law within a perimeter around any type of school, then your fine gets doubled. So it's like around schools, you should be extra careful. So if you do anything that, like, I don't know, if you were speeding and a speeding fine is $100. If you're speeding within a mile out of any school, then it's $200 and like some extra points. It's like,
wow,
you should be very careful. Yeah. So they have some, and I think it's very clever, to make people extra cautious and just to obey the law and pay attention because there are kids around America. It's very common for kids to ride their bike to school or to walk to school. Like a group of friends, they're in like 5th grade. They're little kids.
Yeah.
They're very young. So sometimes they are not so cautious, so you're driving very carefully,
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
a lot of different things.
You were saying something very like some of the things are very interesting, and it's some actually brought very close from a few comments here that we are having, and I will I would take one part of what you said. It's about food in general. That is, it's actually something that I realized it was completely different. Especially when you talked about the breakfast, it is completely different here in Spain. For example, we are not used to to that very heavy breakfast. Normally, we have a bread or something and like jamón, and I mean that's it. There's nothing super heavy, and when I went to California for the first month, I was staying in a American family's house, and it was a kind of a shock for me the first breakfast when I saw they like prepared the whole thing like hey like to a welcoming breakfast for me, and when I saw the table and the things that there were in the table, like okay, that's too much. Like that, it's completely what you just say. Like you have bacons and eggs and like breads and I mean bagels and in a lot of different
sausage and
sausage. And I was like, what is this? It's something that I was completely not used to. But it was good. I ate it, so it was good. And one of the things as well that I noticed that I was used to see a lot on movies, and but I didn't realize that it was too much real. That is the donuts. Like it's incredible how Americans love donuts, and everywhere you go, and it was like the amazing thing that you walk around, and you sometimes see those cops with the boxes of donuts eating like the donuts and stuff. For me, it was very something I was picturing like a movie when I was walking around. Like seeing a cop, a police cop, and just eating a donut was completely a movie just walking in front of me. It was something very interesting.
Exactly.
And it came to, I would talk that because I saw here a comment from Luana, and she asked about what about the eating culture there? People really like fast foods and quick grab and go foods, right? And that's one of the things as
Yeah.
well, as you were saying, that like the fast food chains and all those stuff. That was huge. Even though like here it is quite big, especially now. But I mean, especially comparing with the past from like 10, 15 years ago, it's definitely something that it's. I mean, it is different. And how is your point of view in the fast food and how people react and Americans love those kind of food?
Yeah. The donut thing is pretty funny because it is something very typical and people love it. And it's very common for like one of your coworkers one day go buy like a donuts, Dunkin' Donuts or something, and buy like 2 boxes of donuts and bring it to work for people to eat, like for breakfast or something, and have with your coffee. And there's even a slogan, I think it might be Dunkin'. It's like American runs on donuts.
Oh,
And it's
really?
very true. And muffins, and that's cool. Like, depending on whatever country you visit, they have like some special sweets or something. But like, yeah, these are things that I very much associate with United States, like donuts and muffins,
Yeah.
brownies. Brownies are very popular here now too. But like I remember when I was a kid, we wouldn't eat brownies in Brazil. Like you would eat like like a bunch of other types of sweets. But these are like very American kind of things. And the fast food is real. In America, there's 2 things I think that kind of push forward the fast food industry. One is the idea that time is money. This is like a very like ingrained aspect of American culture. People don't have that much time off work to eat properly. So this is especially true during lunch hour, and people are very busy at work and everything is due yesterday. It's a very fast-paced, high-demand, high-stress kind of work situations in most sectors. Of course, I am generalizing.
Yeah.
I'm speaking generally. And so people during lunch, they just want to go grab something that they can stuff themselves with, and it's cheap because you have to eat every day and come back home. Like in Brazil, usually when you work at a company, they might give you like an extra part of your salary for eating, right? And then you might get also another part of a salary extra, which is to help you with transportation. We kind of have these like quote unquote laws for the worker, right? In America, it's like, nah, you get paid this much an hour, and then whatever you eat and however you get home, like this is on you. That's your problem, right? So you have to pay out of your pocket to eat lunch every day, and then people really start cutting down on how much they spend. So they want something cheap. They want something that, will stuff you because you have another 4 or 5 hours at work before you go home. And they want something fast because you don't have that much time. So this type of situation, I think, kind of helps promote fast food, And it's not just because you're busy at work. I think in general, like Americans are always kind of like on this fast-paced thing. Even kids, like the kids also want their food fast, and you're always like trying to get somewhere. And I think I don't know if it was always like that, but I know that once it started and it started growing, it kind of started shaping that type of culture. And another aspect of American culture is like corporate culture. So it's very common for like if a business starts becoming successful, you open branches, and then it starts becoming sort of a corporate, And this is, of course, depends on where you go. There are still like family-owned restaurants, and like the same little market that's been there for 30 years, and it's like Brian's dad who opened it or his grandpa. These things still exist, but it's less and less common, especially in big cities. So what becomes more and more common is for you to open something that is easily recognizable and it kind of already has a name. So you open a McDonald's, you open a Domino's Pizza, you open a 7-Eleven, like convenience store. And this is the same for gyms, for food, for anything. American is very, very corporate. And this is a curiosity of America. So
Yeah.
If you've never been there and if you live somewhere that is not like that, this is like a surprise because you feel like things are very repetitive. You will drive like 3 blocks and you will kind of see the same similar structures. Like, and what is a structure that I'm talking about? It will be like a plaza. And in that plaza, you have a gas station and a drugstore and a fast food chain and a gym and a restaurant. Let's say like 5 components. And you will see that over and over again. And on one corner, you will have these 5 components. And across the street, it will be the exact same thing, but 5 competitors. You know? So here you have McDonald's and a Shell. And then here you have like a Esso and a Burger King. And then on the other corner, you have like a Domino's Pizza. And then here you have Papa John's Pizza. And these things are very repetitive. And it's kind of crazy when like until you get used to it. If you come from somewhere that things are very much different everywhere you go, it's like a family-owned business and this type of restaurant and that. And even the way that things are grouped and shaped and organized, it's like very different. There it's kind of like figure out these little systems just to make life simpler and faster, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a big difference as well.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of thinking here in Berkeley, it is, I mean, similar. In some way, you have some kind of structure. I was kind of trying to remember here. But when you go to San Francisco, that it's right over, you have just to cross the bridge. It is definitely like that. Definitely like you were saying. It's like you have a structure. In every corner, you have a structure. So it's in every apple, you have these same things. And the other one, you have like almost the same things as well. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, that's true. It's definitely.
Yeah, and that's kind of happening here now. It's very slow and not as many. But like really close to my neighborhood, they opened a gas station and there's a pharmacy and a gym. And it's very small and it's just one. But the first time they opened it, I was like, oh my God, it's coming. You know, it started.
Yeah, the Americana way of life.
5 years from now, there's going to be the same one across the street. And then this is how it starts. Because it's profitable. Somehow it works. It's like a system that within like capitalism, it functions, right?
Yeah.
And if it works, then the probability is that it will be more and more of it. And because of competition and because it's not so profitable, the other formats kind of start dying out. And this is just me like philosophizing about this. But I think it makes sense. And I think this is why it happened that way in America. It wasn't overnight, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
I think these are like structures that work. And you see it here and you probably see it in Madrid and in a lot of other places that like these fast food chains are starting to get bigger. And the Starbucks, like coffee businesses, like it's less and less like the tiny little coffee shop where you would go in and the abuela would come and grind the coffee and make it for you. It's like you probably go into like a Starbucks or something,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Starbucks is great, but I kind of love the old way. Maybe I'm just nostalgic or I don't know, but I like the variety of you driving 10 minutes and it looking different and being a different coffee shop than the one that you drink coffee every day near your work or near your house. I like that. So I hope somehow people can still sustain that type of business because I think it makes things just more interesting,
That's true. That's true. I hope as well. Sometimes they need those like personalized touch. I think they put it a different touch into what they do.
And you can find that in America, you can find it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's really dying out. It's like, it's way less common,
Yeah, definitely. And you were talking a little bit about like work in general as well. And I just saw here that we received a question from one of our coworkers on Cambly, and she's she's the one who is always helping me with the comments here. And I would say that the Cambly team is so amazing that she's now working in the airport. So she will be traveling tomorrow and tonight actually, like in a few minutes or hours, I don't know. I hope that she will not leave me here alone. But she's working from an airport now, so I mean, amazing. Thank you, Flora, for being here, helping me out with the comments in the airport. So amazing. And she put it a comment, and it would be, and she put it about accents. Is there a state where the accent is so strong other Americans have trouble understanding? What is the state with most different accent in your opinion? Mm,
Interesting.
yeah.
I think so strong that people can't understand. I don't know. I've never come across that. Yeah, maybe there are. And I think it's like in very rural areas of some southern states, it's a very strong southern accent that is very difficult to understand. And especially in some places where it's very roots. It's like these are kind of like small communities of people living in the bayou and people living in the middle of the Everglades. So they kind of have like a very antique style of life. So it's not only their accent because of where they live, but because like they're so localized and they don't work in a big company. They didn't go to like a big university and have exposure to a lot of other people speaking English. So their English gets like very tight in that accent, and it's difficult. And I remember some like TV shows in America. There were like people who would live in the swamp and people who would live not in the swamp. I'm not saying they're swamp people, but they live like in the Everglades area, and they live in these places that are kind of like in the woods, very isolated. And it's a fascinating lifestyle. The shows were a lot of fun. These people are very funny too. But their accent was super strong. And sometimes they would have subtitles. So if they had subtitles on TV, it was because it was hard to understand,
Yeah.
New Yorkers are also like the very roots New Yorker, like the one who was born there and never left New York. They also have a very strong accent. And because they speak also really fast, and we get exposed to the New Yorker accent on movies. So they're portraying a New Yorker accent, but in a way that you can understand it. The very thick, heavy New York accent is actually pretty thick. So, yeah, in New Jersey a little bit too, and in New Jersey, a lot of influence from Italy, and their accent is like kind of New Yorker, and it has like a little Latin swag to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know which one is the most. I would say those two. I haven't really heard like all the accents. I think California is pretty standard, like the Hollywood type of standard American accent. Pretty simple. In Florida, it's pretty simple too. And so there's a difference in dialect and accent. So these are like peculiar things that people use, like slang and different words that they add from, like their family's like original language. So in Miami, you have like a lot of Latin influence. And so depending on where you go, there might be very thick Hispanic accents and using a lot of Hispanic words with the English, like a Spanglish. So if you are not really from there, you could find it hard to understand. But like as a typical American accent, probably the Southern accent and the New Yorker accent. This more complicated, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying it's definitely something like in New York. When I was in New York, when I was visiting New York, I definitely noticed some kind of especially what you say about the Italian and influence there in New Jersey, in that area there, and it's definitely something that you notice. I mean, I'm not from there, but I could notice this kind of like, interesting. That's kind of a European kind of style here. There's nothing that I was used to. But I never heard like this one that you said, like the very strong New Yorker from there. I think for me, one of the most, I would not say difficult. I would say like, it was nice to hear. I mean, it was like they talk like a song. It from the guys from Texas, and I think they say it looks like they're singing, and I like that. It's for me it was the most different. I would say like that different accent that I heard. It's the people from Texas.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I agree. Like you said, it's not so difficult to
Yeah.
understand, but it is kind of like this beautiful stylized kind of accent.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a movie. Again, I
Yeah.
think it's great. It feels
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
watching like a Western movie.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And now here, I was like trying to remember, but there was one time that I heard that was in California, especially specifically in Oakland. And Oakland, it's there's a neighborhood in Oakland, especially when there's a metro line there, the train stop there. It's in a neighborhood that it's like it's known to be kind of gangs and all those stuff. So it's kind of like they say like it's kind of dangerous. And I was in the train one day coming back from I don't know where, and there was the first time that I heard some people talking in English, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying. And they were kind of a four guys, and they were all like this hip hop style, like very huge bands and like the huge sweaters, and they were talking like between like with each other, and I couldn't understand a word about what we were saying. They were saying, I
Yeah.
mean, at the amount of I don't know if it was slangs or just speaking super fast. I don't know, but it was the first time that it was hard for me, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm here trying to to hear, but it was difficult for me to understand. It was especially in these
Right.
places, specifically in Oakland, in California, that it was difficult for me.
And this is true throughout America, and there's a name for it. It's called Ebonics.
Hmm.
And Ebonics is what they call it's English, but it's not really an accent. It's a way of speaking. I guess you could call it a dialect or something.
Hmm.
And it's very urban. It usually comes from the poor communities, from poverty. It came from that,
Hmm.
and it's a way that, yeah, it's very hard to understand,
Hmm.
especially if you're not used to it.
Hmm.
You can frequently hear it used in hip hop and like these kind of cultural references that come from poor places and communities and gangs and all the things that you're talking about.
Hmm.
And it's a very urban street kind of form of speaking, completely informal, not only informal but like grammatically very incorrect, right?
Hmm.
um, like instead of conjugating to be, right, I was, you were,
Hmm.
you will hear in Ebonics like you was, right,
Hmm.
instead of you were. And we is instead of we are. And there's no really like right or wrong way of speaking Ebonics, I don't think. It's just like you have complete like freedom
Hmm.
to really just express these like all these different nuances of syntax. It's just making it, I guess, the easiest and fastest way possible. You're just like super simplifying English grammar and syntax along with an accent and with a
Hmm.
hip hop kind of attitude, and people coming from the streets, and these were people who didn't have as much opportunity, so maybe didn't have as much education, so they would speak in a way that was incorrect, and slowly, instead of being corrected and learning the right way, that kind of became like a new dialect, and it's called Ebonics. And it's
Hmm.
it's very common, and especially depending on where you go, you will hear like a lot of Ebonics, sometimes only Ebonics. Like if you're in a place that it's like a lower income place, or where there's like a lot of like people playing ball in the street and in the park. It's kind of like a very urban, super relaxed and casual way of speaking.
Hmm. I didn't know about it. That's interesting. That's interesting. So probably it was that
Yeah,
I heard. Probably.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. And like a lot of the rap artists and like they all kind of use Ebonics, and you also they use English as well. With Ebonics is English, but like more correct type of English. But
Hmm.
once hip hop started becoming more commercial as well, I think it started being a little dumbed down for people to understand them better, for the message to be more clear and to be more digestible. But you get a lot of like real underground like rap and hip hop artists, and
Hmm.
it's really hard to understand the lyrics, because
Yeah.
it's all out Ebonics. And I can understand it pretty well, because growing up, I had a lot of friends who were from these communities, and I would go play soccer and basketball with them, and I became friends with them. So I was very used to speaking that manner, you know. And I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop and rap, but yeah, it's very common to hear it.
So it would be difficult for you to speak like Ebonics, like, you have to make an effort to speak it like them. It's like that. It's kind of difficult.
Yeah, I could replicate it, but I would be replicating it. You know, it's a little forced, because that's not how I grew up speaking as like my main way of speaking. But sometimes I would go to like the park and I'm playing basketball, and it is that type of environment, you know. Yes, you do kind of go along with it, and you know, like some expressions, not the whole time. So I would use some expressions, or you know, say something, especially if you're mad and the play happened, you know. But that's not the way I would regularly speak, you know, and I won't. I don't really see a need for it unless I'm playing around sometimes with some friends and we're freestyling and we're singing some hip hop. Then you go along with it. You're having fun, you know. But it's not the way I speak.
Yeah, definitely.
But I could teach you that, but not on Cambly. that wouldn't be so productive.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone interested in learning I would not say wrong, but it's an English that you will say could speak just in a few parts of the United States. I mean, you can reach to Gui and have a class with him.
Yeah, there is a need for it sometimes, you know, and this is a good maybe thing to talk about, like. There could be a need for someone to learn like more, or understand, or be aware of some Ebonics. Like if you go to California tomorrow as a tourist and you took the train and you took the wrong stop, right? And now you're in a neighborhood where everyone is speaking Ebonics, and they're looking at you like you're completely a fish out of water, right?
Yeah.
And you're just trying to find your way back home. Then it might help if you can at least understand, you know, because it's still English. It's not like it's a completely different language. So if you speak English to them, they understand you, but they're just going to answer you very, you know, like rough English, I guess you could say, and speaking very fast, you know, with the accent and all these things added up. So there could be a need for you to at least understand and know some of the expressions, so you're not completely lost. But it's not really like what we are usually intending to learn as a new language, right? Because you're not going to use this in like a educational setting or professional, or if you're traveling to most parts of the United States or in the world, you're not really going to speak Ebonics. But it doesn't hurt to know some things. And if you're a really fan of like hip hop and some types of movies that deal with that culture, then it's also interesting for you to understand better what they are saying, you know?
Yeah.
If you watch like 8 Mile, if you watch Friday, you know, there's like all these Boys in the Hood, all these old like hip hop kind of like urban movies. They use a lot of Ebonics, you know, so it's cool. It's interesting to learn, I guess. I don't know. There's like a bunch of other dialects too. It's not just Ebonics, you know. But I can't really understand them that well. But people like from Jamaica speak a lot of patois, which is English with like some other references from like native Jamaica, and it's super hard to understand. You know, if you listen to a lot of like old school reggae, you can't understand half of it. And supposedly English, you know, it's patois. So it's like a whole different type of dialect. And you would go to friends' houses when I was young, you know, like in school. I would go eat lunch at a friend's house, and maybe he was from Jamaica, and he speaks English, you know, perfectly like I do and all the other kids. But then maybe in his house, his parents are speaking patois, and you're like, what is going on? You know, I'm lost. I can't understand anything. And they're asking you if you want some more soda or something, but you can't really like put 2 and 2 together. You're like, I can't understand them, you know. Wow. And it's part of any language, you know. If you come here to Brazil, there are like a lot of places where people speak, you know, some different dialects, and it's very present in a lot of music, right? Funk and other types of songs. And I guess if you go to Spain, or if you go to France, if you go anywhere else, they also have like these urban dialects, right? Yeah. So I guess it's the same.
That's true. That's true. And it comes to an interesting question that I just received. I mean, we received a lot of questions. I'm trying to read them all, but I'm trying to relocate some of the when we are like from the topic that we are talking now. And Ana Lorena she just asked something very interesting related to slangs. And she put it, are there some slangs expressions that their meaning change from a region to another inside the United States? Do you know any, or do you know if
Inside the United States?
yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not so sure. I didn't travel that much throughout the United States, but maybe I can't think of any right now. Some slangs.
What would it
Maybe there are. I would say that I don't know if one slang could mean different things. Maybe there are some. I can't say yes or no, but for sure, slangs that work in one place but don't work in another. That for sure happens, right?
Mhm.
They're like more like old slangs and like different words that people use, expressions. So there are some slangs that maybe make sense in Miami, but if I go to like Chicago and I say this, then people are like, "What is he talking about?" You know, they never heard that before. So that might happen, but maybe it also could be that I'm saying something as a slang here and somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
Either people understand it literally for it really means, they don't get that it's a slang.
Uh-huh.
It's a different slang there. It could be, but I can't think of right now. But that's a great question.
Mm-hmm. What was one of the slangs that you think in Miami you guys use the most?
It changes. It's seasonal.
It's seasonal.
um, like the simplest slang, I guess, that I would hear when I was like very young, like maybe one of the first slangs that I learned was like cool, you know, like cool.
Mm.
And yeah, so something being cool. And I was like, what does that mean? It's cold? Like, well, not cool. It's something that is, it's nice. It's something that is fun or enjoyable, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Mm.
and then I guess it could be hot, you know, then, oh, something hot. Oh, this is hot. That means right now it's trendy, right? It's hot.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is fire. This is fire. It means that it's great. You know, it's like something very exciting.
That's
yeah, I mean, you can just go. It depends on the context and what you're talking about. But the slangs, I think, they're also kind of seasonal, and they come with different like rap songs that maybe use a new slang that becomes popular. You know, it's trendy. Slangs are always trendy anywhere you go.
Yeah.
And then in Miami, a lot of like influence from Spanish, you know, so like something is suave or I don't know. So
really,
there's just all kinds of different things that come from Spanish, which is just pretty cool.
That's super.
I remember me and my friends would have a lot of fun mixing Spanish with English, you know, like "Cógelo con take it easy." That was something that we'll say a lot, like "hurry up but take it easy," you know, and we'll say it in Spanish and then in English.
That's super nice.
Miami is amazing. Everyone watching, go to Miami at some point and go to like all of Miami, you know, go get lost in like Hialeah and the Springs and, you know, Calle Ocho and, you know, Little Havana, Brickell. Just go everywhere. Don't go just to South Beach, which is cool, but like go everywhere. Yeah. And you get like a lot of different flavors of Miami. You know, it's great.
Yeah, Miami is beautiful. I mean, you definitely should. That's a very nice expression. How you say it? Cógelo and take it easy.
Cógelo con take it easy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, there was like a lot of slangs that the Latin community took from like also English words, and they would use it for something totally different, like Mickey Mouse. They would use that, and it's Mickey Mouse. They would just like say it in a Hispanic way. And it meant something totally different. It meant something that was like haphazardly done as like a solution for something, you know. So like, let's say that you broke the windshield of your car, right? Like a window of your car broke and you don't have money to replace it. So you put a plastic bag. They would say that's Mickey Mouse. And I have no idea why. I have zero idea why that became a slang, but that's what it was. And the first time I heard it, I couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, this is genius.
That's true. This is genius, definitely.
Yeah. Man, it's amazing.
The creativity of the Hispanic people are amazing. So it's
amazing. It's amazing. I love it, man. I love it.
That's true. And I would like to like we're running through almost 1 hour now, and I would like to maybe do this one last question, guys. We did a lot. It's interesting, in very interesting questions.
Yeah, because I have students soon, so
I will, I
let's
will,
go.
I would, I will. So I'll finish this one with
Sure.
a more philosophical one. Let's say like that. It's from Juan Carlos, and he asked, if you could choose any U.S. place for live right now, what city of the United States would be and why?
Great question. I think if I could choose right now any city in the US to live, I would say something like Denver, Colorado.
Mm, nice one.
And the reason being is that winter is coming, and I would love to spend like a whole season of winter to really experience like the snow and going skiing like every weekend and feeling the cold and to shovel the driveway. Like I've seen snow plenty of times, but like always just for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
I would go like for a week to New York, and I've been to Canada a bunch of times during the winter, but I've never lived in one of those places to really experience the lifestyle and to get a rhythm of going skiing and doing all these outdoors activities in the snow, which I think are great.
Yeah.
For that reason, and because I've heard great things about Colorado and Denver, seems like it's a very nice modern city, but it's very close to a lot of like mountains and skiing locations. So that's the first city that came to my mind, and that's the reason. But United States is like it's gigantic, and there's like so many cool places that I would love to visit and to experience. But I would say Denver for that reason.
That's nice. That's nice. So
how about you?
I would choose Santa Barbara and near Los Angeles in California. It's I fell in love with that place. Amazing city. Santa Barbara in California. So you guys should check it out. It's an amazing place, beautiful city, and it's super near to LA. So it's very close, like 40 minutes drive. I think 30 minutes, 40 minutes driving. So, guys, thank you very much. I would leave Guy now because he has another class right now. So, it was amazing. Thank you for your interest, and thank you, Guy, one more time for having us here and sharing all this knowledge. It was very nice.
Sure. Thank you, Thiago, once again for the opportunity. Thank you, Cambly, for putting these together. It's a lot of fun to be able to be in contact with our audience. Thank you, everyone at home, for watching. If you want to schedule a class, please go ahead and book a class with me. It will be a lot of fun. I can help you with many different things with your English, job interviews, preparing for exams, just improving your confidence. And I have to take off now, but it was an honor. And I can't wait for us to do this again.
All right. Go take our class. Guys, thank you very much. And see you guys next week, okay? See you soon. Thank you. Bye bye. Hasta luego.
Bye bye.